All right, we are back and we're going to talk about good advice.
La la la, clicky keyboard noises, la la la, keyboard noises.
That last video did a lot better than I expected. As of filming, I had about 600 views by the time I'm filming this video. That's well over twice the number of people that I graduated high school with. So that's like a big deal for me. It just blows my mind that people I don't know saw a thumbnail of my face and thought, yeah, I'm going to spend my precious life minutes listening to what this stranger has to say about something. And not only that, but everybody that commented was really nice and thoughtful and insightful and generous with their thoughts, and that was awesome. I love comment sections that are full of people sharing ideas and talking to one another. It's awesome, and I'm still just holy cowing the whole thing. So thanks again, and if you were on the last video and you're coming back today for more, thank you so much. Since we spent the last video talking about advice I don't like, today we're going to be talking about advice that I do like and what it is about that advice that I like. And since I thought it would be fun to do a mirror of the previous video, how that advice can go from good to bad. So number one, setting compassionate goals. Last summer, I told myself that I was going to write for 10 minutes a day, every single day. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it was every day. That was a SMART goal, which is smart, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. I'd be able to hit 10 minutes a day every day over the course of 3 months, right? That's nothing. That's not even 2 episodes of Bluey. Well, the first time I skipped a day, I felt like a failure because technically I was. I had to mark my whole quarter as a loss because I skipped a day. I beat myself up pretty hard because I thought that I had set an easily achievable goal and it didn't happen. All or nothing goals work for some people. I am not one of those some people. For people like me, and I suspect for a lot of neurodivergent people, all or nothing goals are pretty much a surefire way to make you hate yourself. My current goal is 15 minutes a day, which is a slightly longer time commitment, but I'm only aiming for 5 days a week instead of 7. That gives me 2 days of buffer a week in case I get sick or if I'm busy or if I have to go out of town or, the occasional day where I can't fit 15 minutes into myself. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I've already failed at that one for this quarter too. The things that I was doing, all of my goals together, something had to give. Since I am now using compassionate goals, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to keep trying. And I didn't fail and then decide, well, whole quarter shot, I guess I don't have to write for the rest of the entire quarter. I took my break and then I came back. Sometimes you have to pivot. So how can setting a compassionate goal become bad advice? Pretty easily, actually. If what you're doing is not working, a compassionate goal allows for modification. If you make a mistake or if you fall short of your goal, the point is to take a step back, do some self-reflection, figure out what you can change to still achieve your goals, just maybe in a different way than you had originally planned. It allows for the human element, but it can also be kind of a crutch. You can give yourself too much grace and too much leeway to the point where you're not actually motivated to reach your goals at all, and somehow your compassionate goal has turned into wishful thinking and daydreaming. So you have to strike that balance between pushing yourself and being able to forgive yourself if you can't quite reach where you wanted to be. Number 2, set a timer when you're doing some research. Rabbit holes are very easy to fall into. Say you want to know where Keanu Reeves was born. The next thing you know, it's been 45 minutes, and now you're looking into the history of the Temple of Bacchus. Now you're looking into traditional meals served in the area, and now you're looking for restaurants in your area that serve it, and it's all spiraled out of control, and all you really wanted to know where Keanu Reeves was born. Research is important. If you're stopping every 10 minutes to look something up and then spending 45 minutes on a side quest, you're never going to finish your story. This is why researching is an important part of the pre-writing process. Before you even set down, if you know it's going to be set in a certain time period, research the heck out of that before you even write your first actual word of your story. Now, that said, there's going to be stuff that you're not going to think about until you're actually writing it. And in those instances, that's when you set that timer. If you get caught up in a little bit of a rabbit hole, that timer is going to go off and you're going to stop what you're doing and go back to your writing. And that way, you stay on track, you've gotten some of your research done, and now you're back on track. If it wasn't enough time, make an asterisk, come back to it later. Big topics are for pre-writing, middle topics are for the timers. The political landscape that led to the French Revolution, probably not something you can adequately research in 10 minutes. But if you're writing a story set in 1813 and you want to know whether the characters would have access to a rubber condom, that's something you can figure out pretty quickly. That said, if you are not good at researching and being able to tell the difference between a good fact-based resource and a conspiracy theory website or a website that's using outdated information, a time limit's probably going to end up with you getting bad information at best. And if you just run with the bad information, readers are going to catch you on and they're going to call you on it, and you will be accused of pushing an agenda at best or making things up at worst. And that's where time limits can be more of a hindrance than a help. But otherwise, they help people who are prone to internet frolicking not do that as badly. Number 3, don't chase trends. Toni Morrison, years before I was born, said, there's a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Now, she said that maybe 40 plus years ago, but I still think it's just as true now as it was back then. If the book's not something that you would want to read, or something that if you saw it on the shelf, you wouldn't grab it and be like, yes, so excited, what's the point of writing it? You're spending your free time writing a book, racking your brain for plot ideas and twists and snappy dialogue, when you could be learning a new skill, or binge watching a TV show, or spending time with your loved ones. To me, it stands to reason that you wouldn't be sacrificing all of these memories and all of these experiences unless you were devoting that time to something you were truly passionate about. Yes, there is something to be said about writing to your audience, because if you don't write things that people want to read, they're not going to come back for more. You should still be writing a story you'd be excited to see on a shelf. If you want to read it, odds are someone else, or many someone else's, want to read it too, whether or not it caters to a current trend. And not only that, but traditional publishing, trends are kind of like stars. By the time these books have reached the shelves, it's been at least 2 years since they were written. The publishing industry is moving on to the next thing because they're looking 2 years in advance at what might be cool then and what might sell in 2 years. If it's in the middle of this trend bubble, by the time you get to where your book is ready to be querying, you've already missed the boat. If you're self-publishing and you're doing one of those rapid release models, you probably could get a couple books into that trend before the market oversaturates. And if that's your scene and that's what you plan on doing, that's awesome. Go for it. More power to you. If you're not doing rapid release though, and you're the type of person that's going to be putting months or even years into this book that you're writing, it's probably time better spent if you're writing something that you can be proud of, rather than something you think is going to be trendy. Sorry, the fat man needed into the filming room. So anyway, taking it too far, of course, because we are trying to figure out how good advice or well-meaning advice can turn into bad advice. If you take the phrase "don't chase trends" at its basest form, then the opposite of that is set trends. You could twist yourself into knots trying to guess what's going to be popular in a year, 2 years, 6 months, 3 years, whatever, however long it takes. And that's going to come at the expense of the book you're trying to write. Instead of focusing on writing the best thing that you can write and writing something you can be proud of, you're focusing on what everybody else might want. There are some things that I can gamble on. That's not one of them. Be like that little girl putting on her seatbelt and worry about yourself.
What about yourself?
Writing advice number 4. Read. I've said it before, and I am going to say it 100,000 more times. I think it is important to read. I think it is important to read while you're writing, if for no other reason than to give you a break from your own head. When you're reading your story for the 5th time, you just need to get out of your head for a bit, and reading a different book is a great way to do that. On a bigger scale, though, exposing yourself to other authors, other cultures, other stories, other genres is its own form of research. It might even help you get out of a writing rut. Maybe you're stuck on what your character needs to do in a sci-fi techno thriller, and you read just like a throwaway line in a piece of historical fiction that gives you a seed that helps you break out of that block you've got. Perhaps you're not sure what you want your next writing project to be, and then you read a poem that inspires you to pick up your laptop or your pen and paper again. Also, reading is just fun. I've seen some authors that brag about how they don't read, but that never sat well with me because of the way they're bragging. Like, I get it if you're too busy to read, but if you're being snooty about it, like, you're going to tell people that reading is dumb and reading is for losers, and then you're going to go, oh, but not my book. My book's good. You should read my book. My book is not for losers. The audacity. And I am by no means a quick reader. I used to work full-time nights, and I could get through 2 books a week, maybe more if I read at home as well. And now I'm lucky if I can finish 1 book in a month. But I still make time to read, and I still enjoy reading, and I still find it therapeutic, and I still appreciate the act of reading. But if you read too much, you might start comparing your rough draft to somebody else's professionally edited 13th draft and just get overwhelmed and feel like there's no way you're going to be able to measure up. And that's not what we're trying to do here. There's also the possibility that you end up spending all your time reading because there are a million amazing books out there, and there's not going to be enough time to read all of them. So you have to read all of them all the time and do nothing but read. And then where do you find the time to write your own novel? You have to remember, if you want to have your own finished story that other people get to read, you got to write it. And my last piece of advice, number 5, write down your ideas when you have them. Don't trust that you're going to remember that line of dialogue in 2 hours, especially if you've been struggling to finish up that scene and you wake up with the answer. Write it down while it's still fresh in your head. It may not make any sense when you review it later on, but it's better to look at your story and go, what was I thinking? Than to be racking your brain 3 hours later going, what was I thinking? You know, I'm still guilty of this at times because I will tell myself the idea is good enough that I'm going to remember it when I get off of work or when I get done with my morning routine or when I finish making my meals. But you know what always happens? It's never just, I'm going to finish my task and then I'm going to write it down. It's, oh, well, while I'm down here, I should do this. And this reminds me I need to do this. And I need to go over here while I'm at it. And I should add something to my grocery list as well. And the next thing you know, the idea is gone forever. And I knew it was going to happen. Let it slip away anyway. And you don't have to write every bit of it down, just enough to jog your memory. And this can, however, turn into bad advice because if you only ever write down the ideas but never review them, then what's the point of writing them down in the first place? I do have some notebooks from a few years ago that I recently read through, and I found little scraps of dialogue, scenes, descriptions for stories that I never got around to doing, but I had no context for them. I didn't remember writing them, what stories I intended them to go into, and sometimes I didn't even know which characters were involved because I didn't put dialogue tags because I thought, oh yeah, I'll get back to it. But I never went back and read those notes to put them into effect. Put a reminder in your calendar or in your phone or on your smart home devices, whatever you have to do to remember to go back and look at these notes. Do that and make sure to actually review those notes. Now, obviously, these aren't the only 5 good pieces of advice in the world, and if you have any you would like to share with the class, I'd love to discuss it in the comments. Thanks for hanging out with me today and listening to me share some of my favorite writing advice with you. I hope some of it is helpful or at the very least was entertaining. My name is Jennifer McPeak, and while I am a currently unpublished author, I am actively querying a novel and researching self-publishing methods because I am going to become a published author. I post new videos every other Wednesday where I talk about reading, writing, artsy-fartsy things, and I'd love to have you along on this journey with me. Like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram if you feel so inclined. Until next time, best of luck on all of your endeavors, and don't forget to hydrate. Have a great day, and I'll see you later.
La la la, clicky keyboard noises. La la la, keyboard noises.
He's the one that was meowing outside the door, if anybody heard that. So he's chilling with me now. There he goes. What's up, Friday? You say hello to the camera. Close enough.